She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her.
King Charles finally divorces Camilla after shocking evidence shows she risked the king's health, shaking the royal family and the public. Secrets come to light, trust breaks, and a difficult decision is made at last. What really happened behind palace doors? Could this change everything for the monarchy? Join us as we uncover the full story right now, in detail. A growing silence inside the palace. In the early days of April 2026, London still felt cold, with a light chill in the air. However, the mood across Britain and beyond was anything but calm. Public opinion was intense, and the international media was filled with strong reactions. Major newspapers carried headlines that all pointed to one troubling issue. At the center of it all was a situation that deeply shook the kingdom. King Charles III and Queen Camilla were believed to be facing a serious divide. What drew the most attention was Camilla's absence from several key public events. This was not normal. She had always appeared beside the king during important moments. Her role was clear, and her presence was expected. Yet, one after another, she was missing. From the memorial service for national heroes held at Westminster Abbey to a short visit to Scotland, where she would usually stand by the king's side, her absence became more noticeable each time. On every occasion, the palace gave simple and unclear reasons. The explanations offered were brief and did not satisfy the public. They mentioned personal schedule issues or health concerns. Still, many people were not convinced. These reasons felt too vague and did not fully explain why she had stepped away from such important duties. As the days passed, the questions only grew stronger. What added even more tension was the behavior of King Charles himself. During a short press interaction at Sandringham, a reporter asked him directly about Camilla. The question was simple and respectful, asking about her well-being and her absence from recent events. For a brief moment, the king paused. His reaction was clear. His face showed signs of irritation. He bit his lower lip and avoided looking at the camera. His answer was short and firm, stating that she was fine and thanking the reporter for the concern. Immediately after, he changed the subject without adding anything more. That short moment quickly spread across social media. People watched it again and again. Many began to share their thoughts, saying that this was not just a sign of tiredness or pressure. Instead, they believed it showed something deeper. It suggested a serious issue within the royal marriage. The calm and controlled image of the royal family seemed to be under strain. While the public focused on these visible signs, very few people knew that something important had taken place exactly 2 weeks earlier. This event remained hidden from everyone, yet it had already changed everything in King Charles's heart. On that afternoon, inside Buckingham Palace, a sealed envelope was delivered directly to the king. It was thick and carefully prepared. The sender was a retired servant who had served Queen Elizabeth II faithfully for more than 30 years. This was not a usual delivery. It did not go through official royal channels. Instead, it was sent through a private and discreet route. The intention was clear. The letter was meant for Charles alone. The king sat quietly in his private study when he received it. The room was warm, filled with soft golden light from a lamp. Antique paintings hung on the walls, and shelves were filled with heavy books. He held the envelope in his hands and felt its weight. His heartbeat grew faster. Slowly and carefully, he opened it. Inside, there were 2 sheets of paper. One was a letter written by the old servant, explaining the purpose of the delivery. The second was a copy of a handwritten letter from Queen Elizabeth. Her writing was familiar, strong, and steady, though it showed slight signs of age. The servant explained that before Queen Elizabeth passed away, she had left this letter with clear instructions. It was to be kept completely secret. She had asked that it be given to Charles shortly before Prince William would ascend the throne. Her reason was to avoid causing him distress while he was still ruling. The servant also shared that this matter had troubled her deeply during her final days. Charles took a deep breath before opening his mother's letter. The words were clear and direct. She addressed him with care and explained that if he was reading the letter, it meant she was no longer alive, and he had taken his place on the throne. She expressed regret for keeping this from him while she was alive. Then she revealed her concern. She wrote that she had quietly suspected that Camilla might have interfered with his cancer treatment during a very difficult time. She made it clear that she did not have full proof, but she believed the signs were strong enough to raise concern. She asked him to verify the matter carefully and with great discretion. She warned him not to let his emotions guide his actions. She also reminded him that the royal family had already faced many hardships and that she did not want him to suffer more pain from someone close to him. As Charles read those words, he stopped. A cold feeling passed through him. The mention of cancer struck deeply. It was a battle he had faced publicly, and he had spoken about his recovery with hope. Now, this letter introduced a painful doubt into his mind. It suggested that someone very close to him might have caused harm. At first, Charles tried to reject the idea. He told himself that this might have been the worry of an aging mother who feared for her son. Camilla had been by his side through many difficult times. She had supported him through the years of public challenges and long waits before he became king. It seemed impossible that she could have done something like this. Yet, the words in the letter were clear and serious. Charles knew that his mother had always acted with care and responsibility. She did not make claims without reason. Her sense of duty had guided her entire life. After finishing the letter, Charles folded it neatly and placed it inside a drawer. He locked it carefully. Then he made a quiet decision. He would not share this with anyone. Not with his advisors, not with William, and certainly not with Camilla. He would find the truth on his own. No matter how difficult it might be, he knew he had to face it. From that moment, peace left him. Even after locking the letter away, the words remained in his mind. They stayed with him, constant and heavy, making it hard for him to rest. Doubt turns into a deep investigation. The next morning, he kept a calm and steady expression in front of the courtiers and his family. Nothing in his behavior showed what he was feeling inside. However, beneath that composed surface, a strong sense of suspicion had already begun to grow, touching every thought in his mind. When he was alone in his study, he took out the letter again, opened it carefully, and read it over and over. Each time he read it, the memories of his past cancer treatment became clearer and more intense. He began to remember the long days he had spent in the hospital. During that time, he had often felt deeply tired, far more than he had expected. The doctors had always assured him that the treatment was going well and that everything was under control. Back then, he had accepted their words without question. He had believed that his exhaustion was simply due to his age and the heavy pressure of his duties. Now, as he sat alone and reflected, those explanations no longer felt complete. Nothing seemed simple or accidental anymore. He thought carefully about the treatment itself. He clearly remembered moments when medication was brought directly into his private room. These deliveries had sometimes happened without a doctor being present to supervise. At the time, he had not questioned it. His trust in the royal medical system and in the people around him had been strong. Yet now, small details began to stand out in his memory. Some of the pills he had taken had looked slightly different from what he had been officially prescribed. Their colors and shapes had not always matched. He had ignored these differences before, but now they seemed important. The trust he once held was slowly weakening. This growing doubt led him to take action. He called for his longtime advisor, a man known for his loyalty and ability to keep matters private. When the advisor entered the room, he immediately sensed the seriousness of the situation. The king spoke in a low but firm tone. He instructed the advisor to carefully review all medical records from the period of his cancer treatment. He made it clear that the task must be done in complete secrecy. No one was to be informed, including Queen Camilla. He wanted a full and accurate account of the medications used, the people who had access to him, and any changes that may not have been officially recorded. The advisor understood the importance of these instructions and agreed without hesitation. In the days that followed, he lived under quiet tension. Outwardly, he continued to carry out his duties. He attended meetings and took part in royal ceremonies just as before. No one could easily see the weight on his mind. Yet every evening, when he was alone, his thoughts returned to the investigation. He found himself remembering past conversations with Camilla during his treatment. She had been close to him, offering comfort and support. Those memories, once reassuring, now brought a sharp sense of unease. When the first report from the advisor arrived, it brought serious concern. The medical records showed that some batches of medication had been listed as supplements. However, the times when these were delivered did not match the official schedule. This difference raised immediate questions. In addition, certain members of the medical staff had accessed him more often than expected. Their visits had been especially frequent during late hours of the night. These details, though small on their own, began to form a clear and troubling pattern. As he studied the report, many things he had once ignored started to make sense in a new way. The information seemed to match what had been written in the letter from Queen Elizabeth. His earlier suspicion slowly turned into real concern. Along with this concern came a deep feeling of disappointment and growing anger. The thought that he might have been betrayed by someone so close to him was difficult to accept. He decided that the investigation must go further. He ordered a complete list of every person who had entered or left his treatment room during that time. He also requested special attention to anyone who had close connections to Camilla. Step by step, the information began to come together, forming a picture that was both serious and unsettling. He understood that if the truth was confirmed, it could lead to a major crisis for the royal family. The consequences would be far-reaching and difficult to manage. Even so, he felt that he could not stop. Knowing the truth had become necessary, no matter how painful it might be. During this period, his behavior began to change. He became quieter and more distant. He avoided spending private time with Camilla, often using his work as a reason to stay away. When she tried to speak with him or ask questions, his replies were short, and he avoided looking directly at her. Camilla appeared to notice this change, but she did not press him for answers. Her silence only added to his growing doubts. His thoughts then returned to the year 2023, when his cancer treatment had been at its most intense stage. At that time, everything at Buckingham Palace had appeared calm on the surface. However, behind that calm, a quiet and unexpected incident had taken place. One evening, a servant who worked closely with Queen Elizabeth was walking along an upper corridor. As he passed by a small room, he noticed that the door was slightly open. From where he stood, he could hear voices inside. Without meaning to, he overheard a conversation between Camilla and a royal bodyguard whom she trusted deeply. Her voice was low but clear, and there was a sense of urgency in her tone. She spoke about acting quickly and mentioned replacing medication with something that would slow recovery without causing harm. She also made it clear that Charles must not be aware of this action. The bodyguard responded by confirming that the medication was ready and that he would make the change during the night when fewer people were around. The servant was deeply shocked by what he heard. His heart raced as he quietly moved away from the door. Without delay, he went straight to Queen Elizabeth. In her private room, he knelt and reported everything he had heard, his voice unsteady with fear. Despite her age, Queen Elizabeth remained calm and focused. She asked him to repeat every detail carefully. After listening, she paused for a moment, thinking deeply. Then she gave clear instructions that the matter must remain completely secret. She told him not to inform anyone else, including Charles, and assured him that she would handle the situation herself. She acted quickly and with great care. She called her most trusted personal doctor to the palace and ordered that all of Charles's medication be replaced with the correct treatment according to the official plan. This change was carried out quietly that same night, leaving no visible sign. At the same time, she took samples of the suspected medication and arranged for them to be tested at an independent laboratory in Switzerland, using a false identity to keep the process hidden. After a few weeks, the results came back. The test showed that the substituted medication contained a substance that could slow the recovery of cells. The amount was not enough to cause serious harm, but it was enough to affect the speed of recovery. This finding helped explain why his progress during treatment had been slower than expected. Even with this information, the evidence was not strong enough to make a direct accusation against Camilla, either publicly or within the royal family. Queen Elizabeth understood the risk of acting too quickly. She feared that any open move might allow all traces of the act to be removed. For this reason, she chose to continue observing and investigating in complete silence. She did not tell Charles, as she did not want to place additional stress on him while he was already facing a serious illness. A warning and a growing suspicion. In the months that followed, Queen Elizabeth continued her work in silence. She did not act in haste or draw attention to herself. Instead, she carefully gathered information step by step. She reviewed Camilla's daily schedule with great attention. She also kept track of the movements of a particular bodyguard. Every small detail was noted and recorded with care. Nothing was ignored. no matter how minor it seemed. At the same time, her health was getting worse. The illness moved faster than anyone had expected. Each day became more difficult for her. Even as her strength faded, her mind remained focused. She understood clearly that her time was limited. She knew she could not delay what needed to be done. One quiet and rainy night at Balmoral, she made an important decision. She asked for her most trusted servant to come to her bedside. Her voice was soft because of her weakness, but her words were still steady and clear. She gave him a sealed letter that she had written herself. She explained that the letter must be kept safe and hidden. It was not to be delivered immediately. She gave very specific instructions. The servant was told to wait until after her passing. Even then, the letter was not to be handed over right away. He was to wait until Charles was stable. Then, just before William's rise to the throne, the letter should finally be given to Charles. She made it clear that she did not want her son to carry such a heavy burden while he was ruling. The timing mattered deeply to her. The servant accepted the task with deep emotion. He understood the importance of what he had been given. With tears in his eyes, he promised to follow her instructions exactly as she had said. Queen Elizabeth gave a faint nod, showing her trust in him. That letter became her final message to her son, a warning prepared in advance. When Queen Elizabeth passed away, the whole nation of Britain entered a period of deep mourning. It was a time of sadness and reflection. Camilla stood beside Charles during this period. In public, she appeared calm and supportive. Her expression showed sorrow as she remained close to him during official appearances. However, no one around them knew what had been left behind. The letter remained hidden, exactly as instructed. It stayed untouched for 3 years. It waited quietly for the right moment to come. Then, 2 weeks ago, the time finally arrived. The letter was delivered into Charles's hands. As he sat in the palace and read his mother's words, everything became clearer to him. He understood why she had chosen to remain silent while she was alive. Her decision had been careful and deliberate. She wanted to protect her son from unnecessary pain. At the same time, she wanted to avoid a major scandal that could damage the royal family while she was still living. The truth began to reveal itself slowly. It became clear that Camilla had once taken steps that affected his health. Her actions appeared to be connected to strengthening her own position. At the same time, Queen Elizabeth had quietly intervened in a way that prevented the situation from becoming worse. After finishing the letter, Charles reached a point where he could no longer ignore the matter. He understood that action was necessary. The very next morning, he called his most trusted advisor into his private study. He gave a clear and direct instruction. He requested a full review of Camilla's travel schedules, internal approvals, and all related activity records from the year 2022 to the year 2024. He placed special focus on the period during which he had been undergoing cancer treatment. He also made it clear that the entire process must be handled with extreme care and secrecy. All findings were to be reported only to him. The advisor accepted the task immediately. Fully aware of its seriousness, the investigation began quietly. At first, nothing seemed out of place. Camilla's public activities appeared normal and properly recorded. This gave Charles a small sense of relief. For a moment, he hoped that his mother's concerns might have been a misunderstanding. Even so, he chose not to stop there. He ordered a deeper examination of internal records. These were documents that only a small number of people within the royal family could access. When the detailed reports were finally delivered, something unusual began to appear. During the time of Charles's cancer treatment, Camilla had approved repeated night departures for a trusted bodyguard named Thomas Hargrove. These outings happened with surprising frequency. The reasons recorded were simple and vague, such as personal matters or visits to relatives. However, the number of these trips stood out. There were more than 20 instances within a period of 3 months. This period matched exactly with the time when Charles's recovery had been slower than expected. As he read the report, his concern grew stronger. He held the document firmly and gave another order. He asked for all available information about Thomas Hargrove to be collected without delay. The royal security team began their work at once. Their findings added more concern. Thomas Hargrove had resigned shortly after Charles completed his main treatment. After his resignation, he had disappeared completely from the royal system. There was no forwarding address, no contact information, and no explanation for his sudden departure. This disappearance raised even more questions. Charles immediately gave further instructions. He ordered that Thomas Hargrove must be located by any possible means. He wanted to meet him and ask questions directly. At the same time, he requested a full review of financial records from that period. He asked the team to focus especially on connections with pharmacies located in the suburbs of London, particularly those capable of supplying special medications. The days that followed were very tense for Charles. He continued to carry out his public duties as required. However, each night he waited for updates from the investigation. As more information came in, the situation became more serious. Records showed that Thomas Hargrove had frequently visited a small pharmacy in the northern suburbs of London. This location was not widely known and was not part of the official list of royal suppliers. This detail increased Charles's concern even further. At that point, he remembered the words written in his mother's letter. The signs that once seemed unclear were now becoming direct and difficult to ignore. What had started as quiet suspicion was slowly turning into something much more certain. A race against the truth. At every family meeting and small gathering, Charles struggled to control his emotions whenever he saw Camilla. She continued to speak to him gently, asking about his well-being as she always had. However, Charles kept his replies short and avoided looking into her eyes. His calm appearance hid a growing distance that could not be ignored. 1 week later, the investigation team reported strong progress. They had finally located traces of Thomas Hargrove. He was hiding in a small coastal town in southern England and was preparing to leave the country. As soon as Charles heard this, he gave a clear and firm order that Thomas must be brought in immediately and not allowed to escape. When Thomas was brought into a private room in the palace, his face looked pale and full of fear. Charles sat across from him, his voice steady but filled with authority. He questioned Thomas about his actions during the nights he left the palace in the year 2023. He demanded to know who had given the orders and made it clear that telling the truth was the only way Thomas could hope to keep a normal life. Under the weight of the situation and the evidence already collected, Thomas could no longer hide the truth. 3 years earlier, Camilla had believed everything was settled. She had remained completely silent during that time, continuing her role as queen and appearing calm and composed beside Charles in public. She convinced herself that her actions had been necessary to protect her future. However, in just a few days, everything began to change. Camilla started to notice a shift in Charles. He became distant, avoided eye contact, and spent long hours alone in his study. One evening, she saw him call his trusted advisor for a serious private meeting. This made her deeply uneasy. Unable to ignore her fears, she decided to act. She found an old private phone number she had used only once 3 years earlier and contacted Thomas again. Her voice was slightly unsteady, but she tried to remain calm as she warned him that Charles was becoming suspicious and had started investigating. She instructed him to erase every remaining trace and make sure he could not be found. Thomas panicked and explained that he had already resigned and gone into hiding, believing the matter was long over. Camilla quickly interrupted him and insisted that it was not over. She urged him to leave England immediately, destroy all records, and remove anything that could link back to them. She promised to send more money, but demanded that he disappear completely. After the call, Camilla began removing any trace of her involvement. She quietly checked internal records, attempting to edit or delete anything connected to Thomas. She also contacted a suburban pharmacy through a private channel and asked the owner to erase old transaction records, offering payment if needed. Despite her calm public image, she spent her nights alone, filled with fear and tension. She kept pushing Thomas to act faster, urging him to leave without delay. Although he assured her he would leave the next day and remain silent, she did not feel at ease. Camilla began preparing for the worst. If the truth came out, she planned to deny everything and claim Thomas was lying for personal gain. Still, she hoped her efforts would succeed. She had sent money, given instructions, and tried to erase every connection. For her, this was no longer just about protecting her position. It had become a fight for survival. Yet, unknown to her, Charles's investigation team had already moved ahead. Thomas was located just as he was preparing to escape. The calls and her attempts to erase evidence only added more proof, making the situation even more serious. Her second effort to hide the truth did not work. Instead, it pushed everything closer to a final and unavoidable outcome. A fall of trust inside the palace. King Charles's secret investigation finally came to an end. Thomas Hargrove was detained while preparing to leave England by plane. Under strong pressure from the royal security team and clear evidence, he broke down and admitted everything. His testimony completed the case. The investigation team quickly confirmed it at a suburban pharmacy. The owner admitted selling special medication to Thomas, which was completely different from the supplements listed in the royal records. Financial evidence also surfaced. Camilla had moved large amounts of money through several intermediaries shortly after Thomas resigned. Charles sat in his study, looking at the detailed file. Each page brought deep pain and a sense of betrayal. He had trusted Camilla fully, but now the truth was undeniable. He decided to confront her directly. Late one evening, he called her to his private room. They were alone. Camilla entered calmly, but Charles placed the file on the table and questioned her firmly about Thomas, the medication, and her actions. Camilla reacted with shock and denial at first, claiming it was an attempt to destroy her and insisting Thomas was lying. Charles remained steady and pointed to the full evidence, including records, financial activity, and the incorrect medication. He also revealed that Queen Elizabeth had known earlier, replaced the medicine, and left him a letter. After a brief silence, Camilla admitted her actions. She explained that fear drove her decisions as she worried about losing her position. She claimed she never intended harm but wanted control. Despite her explanation, the evidence was overwhelming. Charles chose not to make the matter public to protect the royal family's image. However, he removed Camilla from all official roles. She no longer appeared at events or ceremonies. Their divorce was completed quietly within weeks. Camilla left the palace and moved away from public life. Though the matter stayed internal, public suspicion grew. Many people noticed her absence and the king's distant behavior. The royal family's image weakened and disappointment spread. Charles remained on the throne but felt deeply alone. He understood that even within the palace, betrayal could come from the closest person, leaving a lasting mark on his life.